CM Punk, CM
Oh
Punk,
my gosh,
CM Punk, CM Punk, CM Punk. I can hear
dude.
the chant from New York City, baby. I am just so
Ooh.
city, that is for sure. CM Punk is all elite, and what a way! Yep, crack it open, celebrate, pop a little bit of the bubbly. Cheers to the
Yes,
weekend
sir.
because that
Cheers, boys.
is, as we like to say here in AEW on Dynamite Download, as we like to say, changing the landscape over and
it's
over again.
forever changed.
The change
tonight.
The bar was set, and then they topped it, and then tenfolds. I mean, what did you guys think, man? I mean, it was hinted at for a while, and obviously all the little breadcrumbs we got, but what are your thoughts, man? Bonds, I know, like what you said in
Bonds,
our text.
get
man,
into it, bro. Everybody's
man.
wondering, Bonds. We know he was on your Mount Rushmore.
Guys,
You took a break for a little bit from pro wrestling, kind of like Punk, right? Like kind of like after, like, dude, how happy are you right now?
Words won't be able to explain it, man. Like this is like Michael Jordan coming out of retirement, but instead of 1 year playing baseball, this is 7 years in making. And
wow,
man, guys, like this is the biggest night maybe in the history of professional wrestling.
I mean, literally, we saw
it.
grown men crying in the crowd, and the crowd was so deafening. And I mean, obviously, one thing like hearing it mic'd up, but imagining being there, like literally, it was probably ground rattling. I don't know how. I know he's a professional
energy,
but CM Punk, man, how do you not like just get emotionally happy?
You can tell he was. He was trying so hard, man. Like. Oh,
well, he said it too, right? I mean, he said it like, guys, you know how to make a guy feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh, the AEW fan base is a passionate bunch, man. And like, I know that we try to stay real positive here, but like, let's call a spade a spade, like the pro wrestling war has really brought out a lot of like the divisiveness in fans and stuff. But I think that like, we as like AEW fans, I think tonight is a night where like don't let anybody rain on your parade. If you are a pro, if you're like Punk said tonight in his promo, I mean, like he is passionate about professional wrestling, and if you are a pro wrestling fan, allow this to be a W for the business. Allow this to be a W for you. Celebrate it. Have a good time. I mean, I'm beaming. My wife was sitting next to me and was just like, it was obvious that, we love AEW. We love what they're doing, but tonight was special, man. Like tonight
it really was.
Tonight, it was an all day thing where I was getting amped all day long.
I was checking my watch all day, and I was working and stuff. But I was like, finally, I'm like, okay, all right, 2 more hours, 30 minutes, and the way I think it was. I know, Bonds, you had your take on how they booked the show, but I think it was perfectly booked because it's one of those things that's like you have to
give the people what they want.
For sure.
They were going to hijack the show, man.
I told you, man, when we were talking about how we would book it, I know that it would have been a beautiful thing to try to save this until the end of the show. But, guys, there's no putting this off any further, guys. This was the moment that the fans were dying to see.
Yes.
From the minute the show started, the CM Punk chants were deafening.
Oh my gosh.
SPD, you said it, man. The energy in the arena was just you could feel the goosebumps, man. Like, and the fact that we're gonna be there at All Out for his first match against Darby Allin, folks. Choo choo, baby! It's gonna be a heck of a time. That match is gonna be killer. Punk's promo, like, there's a lot of things that all of us can love and respect about CM Punk, but there is just an authenticity and a raw,
of course,
like real, like just his promos are just so real. And, talking about like wanting to work with talent like this in AEW, the young talent, there's no better place for him to start for me than with Darby Allin, because this is a kid who, again, you talk about kind of on the outskirts, kind of an outsider, and really a guy who always consistently makes his opponents look like $1,000,000 anytime that he gets in the ring with somebody. I know SPD, you and I have gone toe to toe and battled time and time again over Darby Allin and what he brings. But you and I both can agree. I know that the crash test dummy has always been something that you've talked to him about. But you and I both can agree Darby Allin is going to be an incredible opponent for CM Punk to debut against in AEW because of his ability to put over his opponents. I can only imagine what it's going to be like to see CM Punk hit the go to sleep or try to against Darby. It's going to be a heck of a show.
Oh my gosh. And it's going to be, I just can't believe that we're going to be there for such a monumental weekend. Rampage. I mean, we have next week, very few more shows on television to lead up to this. So it's going to be an awesome time. Obviously, I feel like Punk is going to be making appearances at every Chicago event, maybe at the Fan Fest or whatever. But, man, I cannot get over that crowd and that pop and just the fact that they leaned into it so much. The announcers stopped talking and literally let the fans hijack it for 30 seconds. And then boom, you hit that pop and unbelievable. And like you did at poll earlier today, Bonds, about the music. And it was perfect that he was able to use the music, anything like that. And nothing was, rights to WWE or any BS like that. But yes, my heart is still pumping. My hair is still sticking up on my neck and my arms. It is an awesome time. It is, it's not necessarily the fact that I'm a humongous CM Punk fan, but I'm a wrestling fan and know what this means for the growth of, like he said, the people in the back and the people in the seats. And this person that we didn't want to be gone from the business is in the right place where he deserves after what he's gone through. Like, if you know his story, the way he was treated like dog shit when he was the top guy and literally risking his life with infections and things like that. And so for him to be happy and in the right place at the right time, I think even if he joined day one with Jericho, it would be impactful for sure.
We wanted that, right? We were hoping that could have been the case, but I think this is even bigger, right? Because AEW has had time now to build momentum and establish themselves as a real legitimate alternative to what we've seen and the competition, as Cody called it, right? And I think that now that they've had this legitimacy, and we've been able to hear at Dynamite Download, and all the AEW fans out there across the world have been able to see AEW not only bring some established incredible talents, and I know we're going to get into some, John Moxley in the main event, a guy who was the flag bearer of this company for a long time. They brought in a lot of great talents, but they've also been able to build up their own. And now that they have a full roster of potential opponents for this guy to go against, I mean, we get to see Darby first, but how many people out there want to see a mic battle between CM Punk and MJF? I know, Bonds, your first overall pick, MJF. How incredible of a battle would that be between CM Punk and MJF? There's so many talent. Kenny Omega was a guy from me. I'm already salivating at the thought of Don Callis, Kenny Omega, and the Elite getting in a promo battle and a feud with CM Punk. I just think it would be pure entertainment. There's so much to unravel here. Bonds, I want to throw it to you. First and foremost, I want you to have the opportunity to react to the promo and obviously the excitement of being able to have this moment play out in front of us here. But second, too, one of the things that I think looking at this, and you, SPD mentioned, he as a pro wrestling fan, how he's excited, but you as a diehard CM Punk fan, as a guy who has followed this guy from the get, and seen
the hands
and seen the talent and seen the promos and seen the unique creativity that this guy has had, the different characters and the different personas that he's been able to play over the years, you have to be salivating at it. And dude, the thing that's most exciting for me is, we look at we coming fresh off those Roman Reigns comments about how, CM Punk doesn't move the needle like John Cena or The Rock. Dude, when I saw this tonight, I really stepped back and I thought, who could come back and have that kind of pop and that kind of moment? And it's hard to, I mean, honestly, when you look at pro wrestling guys, The Rock, we've seen him come back time and again, you know, and he's entertaining and he's charismatic, but Stone Cold, I mean, but again, like, I mean, CM Punk being able to wrestle, and that's the difference, right? CM Punk being able to wrestle, being that anti-hero. Is there anybody in the landscape of pro wrestling that could do what we saw tonight? I mean, it's just truly special.
No, man. No, that's the answer. This was the biggest moment that we could have imagined for AEW. I remember when, before I get to the promo, I'm going to talk a little bit about something I talked about with Mike and Crayfish. When AEW started, the first thing I said to him before I watched it, I was like, man, I wonder if they'll ever get big enough to sign somebody like CM Punk, if he'll ever come out of retirement. And so tonight was like a culmination of all my hopes for what this company could become. And man, I am so excited because I was texting at you guys before before we got on here, man. And I said, you know, where Vince McMahon has tried to kill North American professional wrestling, I feel like Tony Khan is saving it.
Yep.
And
well said,
man. Tonight is special. I'll always remember where I was when CM Punk came back, man. Like I'll remember this forever as a wrestling fan, because I was one of those people, man. When he was gone, man, I split. I was done. It's like, how do you mess up having the next best thing in your company, and you just don't care because the fans were the ones that wanted it, not Vince McMahon. The fans were the ones that believed in him, that thought that he was the man. This was a guy that started his own wrestling federation in Chicago when he was younger. Like, this guy loves the business. If you think he doesn't love the business, you don't know his story.
Yep.
Like, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. People have said, oh, he turned his back on the business. No, he didn't. He turned his back on, you know, a bad company. He turned his back on a bad company.
And let's be completely transparent. Yeah. He turned his back on sports entertainment, right? And that's the difference. And I think that is really what splits these two companies. And I think that there is a dot, like, to love and respect what pro wrestling can do. It's different when you respect and acknowledge what this is all about. When done well, the stories, the compelling characters. Bonds, you know, the thing about Punk too is he kind of embodies this anti-hero vibe that is just it just connects on a level of just like, he has a cool factor, right? He has this inherent cool factor to him. And I mean, trust me, as a CM Punk fan, I saw what he did. He went out there, he tried the UFC thing. I know people will dog on him for that, but I personally think that it's pretty cool that a guy would try something like that, go out there and be willing to risk it and try. I think that nothing, to me, this dude kind of has that, like, I don't give a shit attitude. I'm going to live my best life. I'm not here to gain your approval. And I think that's what has always made him so being able to connect with fans, is because he knows who he is. He's comfortable in his own skin. Right.
You can tell that he was a Ring of Honor, like, he's the Ring of Honor legend. Like, he's the ultimate indie wrestler who made it and was over with the fans, who the fans embraced, the fans loved. And now he's back for the fans that actually love professional wrestling. And it is a long time coming, but I'm glad it's here. That's all I can say about it, man.
I'm so awesome. Geeking out. Yeah, I mean, everything for someone, obviously professional for many, many years, but for someone to pull back the curtain and be like, I don't know what I was going to say, like, just to deliver on every aspect.
It was awesome.
I could never perform or even just think straight when a crowd is chanting your name or a crowd is that hot for you, and you're just, as other wrestlers have talked about when they retire, that adrenaline is unreplaceable. You can't replace that pop. You can't replace the boos or the cheers. Like, it's a drug, and I know he's drug free and straight edge, CM Punk, but that is his drug, and and I feel like he was missing that, and he dabbled in MMA and things like that, but for him to finally be back, and hopefully this is his home for many years to come, and I hope I feel like we're going to ride the wave of this for a while, but through All Out. And I think after the match with Darby, that's when we start to see maybe like the first feud start to kindle up. I don't want anyone I was glad AEW didn't throw in, because I was texting you. I was like, is there going to be a villain there going to spoil the party to get, Inferno heat, the biggest heat in AEW? Is there going to be that person? I'm glad they didn't.
And it could have been. That could have easily been a moment, right? You're right, SPD.
Yeah. But that's WWE style. I feel like.
Why not let the fans and Punk and everybody in that arena have that pure joy, right? Like, this is one of those where it was just pure joy. It was just pure. You could feel it in the crowd. Literally, SPD. I know you and I saw it, like tears in the crowd, and and just the pure the energy, the love, the happiness, and in a time nowadays too where like that's so rare, where you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This was a moment where we got to just be able to have fun and feel like kids again, and just be excited about something. It was fantastic to see.
And we're going to be there for his in-ring AEW debut.
That's oh my God, I cannot believe we're going to be at All Out. We're going to represent. We're going to be having a blast.
Pro Wrestling Tees website, they crashed. Their website crashed as well. So I feel like Tony Khan and AEW is like making their money back just in T-shirt sales for whatever they're paying CM Punk, even though I'm sure it was a blank check. Like, here's a blank check. Write how many zeros you want. Welcome to AEW.
and let's talk about that too, man. Tony Khan,
Thank you, Tony Khan.
This dude, this man has this was his dream to create this company, and he's a fan. He's a pro wrestling fan. He created this company, and honestly, a vast majority of the time that AEW has been in existence, he did not have the benefit and the luxury of being able to pull in ticket sales and selling out arenas and all of that, right? And so, for him to continue to persevere and sign big names and not let people go and do all those things that he did that has made AEW such a classy company, such an easy company to root for, to bring in those talents. And now I feel like, here at Dynamite Download, we've talked about it. It feels like they have their foot on the gas pedal, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Buckle up. It feels like now that they're able to go on the road again, Tony and the boys in AEW are not playing. And tonight was, I think, really the signal that, all right, a new era of AEW has begun. And
say it with me, guys.
The landscape has changed, my friend.
As we say here in Dynamite Download,
amen.
Landscape has been changed. It's been changing for a while, but now I think they just bought a lot of new acreage to change that landscape completely.
Nice. This is the Louisiana Purchase of AEW, essentially. Man,
well said.
Yeah, I agree with you. S197, I'm not sure your name, but thank you so much for joining. Everyone, thank you for joining us so much. We appreciate it. But we were texting in the chat like this is going to be impossible to follow. But I would have been fine with the CM Punk, just a promo for the whole hour, and I think every one of us would have been.
Seriously,
which is kind of bizarre. Like, you sell out a wrestling show with no wrestling, but we would be happy. No one would complain.
No. Well, I mean, the anticipation for this was so crazy, right? And that was another thing. Like, let's give some praise here too, to the fact that the stage has been set for weeks now. I feel like CM Punk has been trending on Twitter for, it feels like, a couple of weeks.
It's been the summer of Punk on Twitter.
It's already been the summer of Punk. And for that to happen, and for him to have that spotlight, and SPD, like you said, have the crowd, a deafening crowd chanting his name, all eyes on this guy. Definitely. And for him to go out there and just kill it in that promo, like he always does, right? That was the thing. Like, CM Punk with a live microphone. This is the man of the pipe bomb, right?
Most dangerous man in wrestling.
Amen, Bonds. I know you are just happy as hell, but for him to have that stage set and bottom of the ninth, World Series, and for him to hit literally walk off home run, it just was absolutely perfect. Even the little comment at the end about the ice cream bars, he had a way of tapping into the nostalgia and referencing his past in a very good way, right? It just like touching on it for those of us, but also focusing on the future. This was a very smart promo by Punk. highlighting that nostalgia that we all feel and why we're all so excited for his return, but then doubling down and building on that excitement by saying, like, I'm here to face this young talent of up-and-coming stars that, quite honestly, he was trying to help other young talents, and that was one of his biggest frustrations, and one of the reasons why he always seemed to get himself into trouble was that he would be a guy who was the voice for the voiceless. He was a guy who would stand up for the Chris Masters of the world, the Colt Cabanas of the world, the guys who don't get the platform that he has.
Yep.
And he wants to see those talents get a shot. And for him to join a company that believes in that mantra, that lives that mantra, and who now has an abundance of talent and opportunities for him to have exciting new feuds and matchups, I can't believe what a way that Punk just absolutely delivered. And SPD, this is setting the tone. When Daniel Bryan eventually comes to AEW, which is the rumor, right? Think about how much we look at this company and how much this company has grown since you and I started this brand. The Dynamite download started. It is
I can't wait to rewatch episode 1 and 2 and 3 like early on, and see where we've grown and where the cards are growing. I was going back at looking through like all of our graphics of some of the early stuff and like that we were talking about the feuds then. It's so fun to kind of like see some of those graphics and scroll through Instagram or what was like the feuds. I'm like, oh man, these are like awesome matches. They'd still be awesome matches. But wow, I mean, you have to ride the tide for this. You know, some people talked about potentially a double swerve or you know, maybe even an all-out debut. I don't even know if you need another all-out debut, but I feel like they will.
You hold off on, let this be, to me, SPD, not to cut you off, man, but like, to me, you let this moment, you marinate, right? We always talk about stretch it out, right, folks? We stretch it out, and AEW knows what they're doing here, man. You allow this CM Punk moment to breathe. Allow this moment to let Punk shine in Chicago. Let him have that moment. And again, Darby's going to be the perfect opponent for him in this matchup because he's a young, talented superstar who has no problem putting himself through hell. Yeah. And I think it's going to make Punk look like $1 million. But the chat room is buzzing. The fans want to know. Clearly, your boy Crayfish, if I can name dream opponents for CM Punk.
Name 3.
Darby Allin's going to be near the top of that list for all the right reasons, right? The rebellious nature, that attitude, that anti-hero vibe that he gives off, kind of that outsider mentality. Again, young kid with a lot of charisma and talent, and kind of also touches on the nostalgia with having Sting by his side. I really like that. Bonds, I'm going to throw it to you. We're going to do a little round table here. Bonds, who would be your dream CM Punk opponent? And I can already see you smiling, bro. Go ahead. Tell the world why MJF would be the perfect opponent for CM Punk.
Well, you guys know those mic battles would be top notch.
I don't know what would be better, or what, Jericho and MJF or CM versus MJF. Like both of those are like literally platinum, Grammy, gold plated feuds.
Yeah, and Jericho and him have a history. You know, they've had some of CM Punk's best matches of his career have been against Chris Jericho. And I would love to see that again. You know, that'd be great. But if we're talking newer talent, like, man, MJF just put down Chris Jericho. You know, maybe. You know, he's
maybe he starts leaning into he's the best in the world. You know, like no one's better than me. I'm the salt of the earth. You know, he could lean into how he's the greatest alive, and Punk could eventually have a little bone to pick with him. You know, that's true.
Maybe that's where he gets his first singles loss, man, against the best in the world.
And I think that CM Punk versus MJF would be a really nice pivot from a Jericho because, you know, again, Jericho and MJF, it became very personal. It became like quite a bit of a blood feud between those guys, but there's always that underlying humor behind a Chris Jericho promo, right? Jericho and MJF always have those moments of funny humor. And I got serious. There was blood, and the labors of Jericho seriously was an arduous task for Jericho to overcome. But Punk versus MJF would be, Punk's not going to pull punches. And I think that those
two could different tone.
It would be a different vibe, right? Yeah. I really like that pick. SPD, what about you? I have a feeling I could guess yours, but I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you say it. Who would be your dream opponent?
Well, obviously it would be. I think the ultimate payoff in this company would be MJF versus CM Punk because it's a fresh face for him. It depending on how they book Inner Circle Pinnacle stuff, or if they what they do after All Out. I'm just so intrigued of what's lies ahead. Like, is CM Punk and Darby going to main event, which it could main event with no title on the line, but just the impact of him. It's another one of those, like, how do you follow that, like, as well?
Start the show. Yeah, it's a good point.